Sylvia Donovan. She's going to be joining us.
Oh,
And
yes.
I mean, this girl here, I told her she acts like she's the only child of Jesus because some of the things this girl does, I said, ain't nobody but Jesus. Here's my girl, Sylvia. How are you, darling?
Amen. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Very
It's
good.
good seeing you.
It's good to be seen.
It is so awesome. It's so awesome. So, I talked about some of the things people faced in 2021. So, if you want to share some of that and, also about your nonprofit celebrating life and also what you look forward to in 2022.
Well, I think it's great what Jay had said about this year learning yourself and what you've been talking about is reconnecting with yourself. At the end of 2020, I lost my mother. I've been a caregiver of her for 6 years. The beginning of 2021, I was going through a divorce. So this year has sort of been a redefining, reevaluation, recalculating year for me. So I look forward to going into 2022 with a new mindset, but also not forgetting the golden nuggets that I learned this year. A lot of times we
Mm,
want to kick the last year to the curb and go into the new year, but we got to realize the lessons that we learned along that year. And they've been very, very valuable. It's been an amazing year for my nonprofit. This year we received over $400,000 worth of donations in skincare products that we were able to share with the community, share with oncology centers that were treating breast cancer survivors, share with the staff that was also helping to facilitate. Because this has been a rough year on everybody as we've come out of 2020. So it gave us an opportunity to share some light in the community in some very, very dark places. So we're really excited about that. And as the year ends, we have worked with 5 single parent families that are breast cancer survivors to help them make sure they have holidays for the kids, make sure their groceries. We think about trees under the tree, but if there's no food on the table,
Right.
that's not even, it doesn't make it as exciting. So I thank God for blessing us exceedingly abundantly above what we could think or ask. And we're looking
You
forward
know,
to more.
what you said is interesting. There's still people that don't have anything, but they'll spend their last $100 to get that sneaker or to get that designer purse or
Right,
something designer because they feel that they need it and they're entitled to it because they've had a rough year.
right,
And then they rely on other individuals to fill in the gaps.
right, 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 right,
So there's still people in the learning process of what's important. If you got it and can do it, that's good.
right.
But reinventing yourself, repositioning your mind. Can you talk a little bit about that and how going through the divorce had caused that shift in you? Because
Well,
I
mhm,
know, when you're married, you think you care about the things of your husband, as the Bible says. And
right.
then adapting that nature of being single but not alone.
Right, right. I think you told me a valuable lesson even before I got married. You said that you would rather be alone than to be married and wish that you were alone. And I
Mhm.
always kept that in the back of my head. And when you experience that, it's a whole another ball game. So I have been single for so long. I didn't get married until I was 55, and realizing going back to my life being single, how valuable it was, that the freedom of doing what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted, the way I wanted. um as a single person before, I don't think I valued it because I wanted to be married. But when you get in a situation you don't have that, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
So just enjoying that, and not to say that I don't want to be married again, but
Mhm.
celebrating the moment. So many times we go to the next thing and we forget to celebrate where we are at that time. So I'm learning to enjoy and celebrate, my singleness, um, and the new opportunities that have been, put before me. I'm learning to celebrate those. And I think one of the things that was so important as me making this transition is that I also sought counseling to help me navigate through the process. And sometimes in our community, that's the last thing we want to talk about. But I wanted to make sure that I was emotionally well as I made the next step.
That is so important. Being emotional well. We talk about mental illness and breakups it's an emotional devastation that you
Mhm.
experience. Um, but you pulled yourself out of it.
Mhm.
You pulled yourself out of it. What would you say to individuals that have experienced the loss of a loved one, rather it be divorce or by death? Because divorce is almost like a death.
A death.
The only thing is
Right.
you keep seeing them walking around and reminding you that they're still here.
They not dead. No. I think the most valuable thing that I had in the grief of the loss of my mother and the transition and dealing with the divorce was my friends. My friends really, they wouldn't allow me to get depressed. If I didn't answer a call, like the second time somebody called, they'd be like, "Okay, we on our way over to your house." So people.
Accountability.
Right, it was accountability. We're not gonna let you get in the dumps. People were like, okay, let's go to breakfast, let's go to lunch, let's go walking, just to make sure that I kept going and that I did not get into a deep funk. So I think that was probably the most valuable thing, was having friends that stayed on top of me to make sure that I stayed on top of my emotions and that I didn't allow myself to get into this dark place, because it's easy to happen, but nobody would allow me to even give that opportunity. So
Awesome.
So you're really testifying about the importance of support systems
it is.
and people
Yes.
being there.
Yes.
And yet still for many that go through those type travesty, they almost choose to go through it alone, depending on their position
Right. Right.
and those type things there. I thought it was interesting that you talked about the fact that for you, you had been single so long and that you got married at 55.
Right.
And so majority of your life had been used to being single.
Right. Right.
But for those who have been in the majority of their life that they've been in
In
marriage or
marriage. Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
it's a different impact. I remember Dr. Val's, I call it her famous saying that it's better to be single than to wish you were,
Right.
Yes.
because that's an ongoing agitating type of feeling. It's
Right.
like looking through a window, a window, but you can't get outside
Right. Right.
inside
Hmm.
of that. But
Right.
I want to go back to something I think is important, because I think mindset is important.
Hmm.
I think that there's something that happens when you do get married, that you do release a part of you. You release
Right.
that.
Right.
That's a part of your ownership of yourself that you release. There's
Right.
certain things that you release because you become vulnerable, you become
Right.
transparent, you
Right.
become all those things. And I say that because the fact I go back to one of the most memorable moments I have of you, Sylvia, that was at one of Dr. Val's uh, retreats or
Hmm.
whatever, and you did the whole message on diamonds don't
Don't
beg.
beg.
It just
Yes.
it
She ripped that.
revolutionized. Listen, I saw her through different eyes that day because of the fact it was so profound in what you said, because the fact it spoke to your own sense of self-worth,
Hmm.
your own sense of self-value, your
Hmm.
own sense of all of that. And yet, and still, when we get into relationships or get married, especially to a certain degree, not that it's a complete compromise, but we let our guards down to a certain degree to give over that,
Right. Right.
only to find ourselves sometimes having to retreat and try to find that.
Right.
Come back,
Right.
wherever
Right.
you are,
Right.
because you lose that, and sometimes you have to rebuild. And I said all that to go back to the importance of support system.
Right.
Support system don't always mean that there's someone who's totally condoning or signing off on your current state of mind, but definitely someone who refuse to allow you to sink into that dark hole, whether you're beating yourself up or whether your self-talk is uh, too negative about yourself. And so
Right.
those things are important, because it's easy to get into, but it's hard to get out of.
It's
I
real
mean,
hard to get out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
even when the ink is dry, even when the ink is dry and it's been granted, that's just the legal side of it. The emotional side of it, man, is the wrestling match. It's the tough part. It's that part that listen, that you do find yourself sometimes questioning yourself, questioning what could I have done better, questioning did I do all I could do, questioning why did that, and so you have more questions than you have answers a lot of time, and that is part of the battle that beats people up, and especially this time of year. And I
Yes.
call them those things that, those places of demarcation, those things that we looked at, this was one of those high markers when we did this. Because most time every day wasn't bad or every year
Right.
wasn't
Right.
bad, but
Right.
we have these highlights. And so now we're going through this whole point of, you know, God, it's a little different this year. Boy, I'm all by myself, or this have shifted and changed, and we try to find something that we can do to fill that empty void and that empty space. But man, judging by the smile that's on your face, you must have found it. I don't know where are you selling it? Did you label it? Did you can?
No, but Jay, what you say when you say like you're looking, and that to me has been my biggest quest is finding me. And once you get into that point where you really discover or rediscover yourself, there's a piece. I remember talking to a friend, and she found out my son wasn't going to be around for Christmas, and they were trying to plan these activities. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good all by myself. And that's, to me, that's the biggest struggle, is when you learn that you can celebrate just being with you. It's all right to have somebody else, but when you learn that inner peace of just enjoying time with you, and that comes with what you were saying, Jay, is rediscovering who you are.
Yeah, yeah,
Honey,
because
let me tell you something. After coming out of my marriage, after 17 years, 17 years, I was in the
1980s.
marriage, and in 19 years total, because it took 2 years to get the divorce, I was happy. I was so glad to be able to wiggle my toes without somebody telling me to stop.
You sounded like Martin Luther King. Free at last, free at last.
I was like, oh, but when I met Alex, my king, let me tell you, I was ready. I was
Right.
open to the possibilities, and everything has been absolutely magnificent. I
Mhm.
wouldn't I wouldn't trade anything right
Amen.
now for the life I live now. And I
Mhm.
wish that same thing for you, Sylvia. I know you
Thank
have
you.
to run.
Okay. Thank you.
I know you have to run, but I enjoyed. Do you have any closing remarks?
Just that we, first of all, thank you both for having this amazing platform to talk about all kinds of things that are so important to our community and to our inner wellness, but that we focus on getting the golden nuggets from this year as we embrace opening the door to a new year.
Wow. Didn't I tell you she act like she the only child the Lord has?
I tell you, just all brat.
She make me sick.
I love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Always great
Until
seeing you.
soon.
Merry
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Christmas to
Thank
you.
you. God
Okay.
bless you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my
Wow.
girl right there.
I go back to one of the most, like I said, I will never forget that day. And when she did the whole analogy of a diamond, and a diamond don't beg, it was one of the most powerful things I had heard. And it is so interesting because of the fact it made me start studying even closer uh, uh, the condoniums, diamonds and ruby and those things there, and how valuable those things are
Right, how it
and
all
what they
comes
mean.
together.
Yeah, and it's amazing, when she, I still remember. I remember the T-shirt that she even had, because it was an attitude change. It was one sense of worth, valuing who you are, and when you value who you are, it will put limitations on the things that you allow in
Hmm.
your life. It'll put limitations and set boundaries on things that you allow in your life. And I say that because as we're coming toward the end of the new year, a time that people are reflecting, or they at least should be reflecting and taking introspection, as a result of taking that introspective look at yourself inwardly and understanding your own self-worth, It'll cause you to make some shifts and some changes. It'll cause you to make some realignments and inside of who's in your life and where they're positioned in your life. We have often heard that everyone doesn't deserve to be on the front row of your life. They
Right.
don't. Everyone doesn't deserve. Those seats are called VIP. In other words, everybody can't occupy that space. Everyone can't be there. And guess what? It doesn't necessarily matter the length of time that you've known an individual necessarily, because things change over a period of time. It just does. I was thinking about it. I saw the movie King Richard, about Venus
Oh
and
yeah, that was
Mother
amazing, wasn't
and
it?
that. It's amazing. But I thought about it. For years, those girls ruled the tennis world, number one, number two. But guess what? Time goes on, and as time goes on, things change. And the only thing I'm simply saying is that we have to understand that we cannot be holden just to time of knowing someone. We have to understand the position that they hold and the value.
In that
Some
moment,
things hold
yes.
value longer than others. Some foods hold value and worth. When we look at it and say best if used by this date, right? Okay,
Right,
we,
right.
we know that it's best if used by this date. And we have to take that type of inward look inside of our relationship and friendships and things like that. Is it still holding value? And not for the sake of blame, but the sake of understanding. How do we feed into each other? Do we impart it to each other? Is it always a withdrawal coming from this person, or is there ever a deposit? And so it gives us a fresh look in life, and we have to understand our value and our worth inside of that. Because if we don't understand it, guess what? Nobody's volunteering to tell us. And so we just have to position ourselves. And so I'm encouraged because 2021 has been a great teaching tool. And it's like in 2021 for me, especially toward the second half of it, I could honestly begin to say that I really, really was willing to ask myself the hard questions and to be willing to answer them honestly and truthfully, to be able to even second guess myself and say, you know what? Is this you just saying that as an affirmation, or is this your realization? And to be able to have that honest conversation and to be able to recognize where I need work. And then not only where I need work, but those areas where I realize I have now championed, I've mastered, I'm better inside of it. So it gives you a fresh perspective in life. And you do learn to be happy with yourself. You learn to be happy with the fact of knowing that, hey, I have work. And for many people, and this 'tis the season to be jolly, it's not going to be the gift up under the tree. It's going to be the
Mm,
gift that you discover inside of yourself and be able
wow.
to value it.
And see, and that's what I want people to know and understand, that this is the season to be the greatest version of yourself.
Of
You say,
yourself.
well, Dr. Val, I don't know what that greater version is. I'm still trying to figure out my purpose. I have no idea. But we had Dee Thompson on the show a few weeks back, and she talked about purpose never
Never
dies,
die.
and it doesn't die. But
Mhm.
the thing is, if you sit and do nothing, then you'll never discover what that purpose is. I want to tell you how you will find what your purpose is. Stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about somebody else. That's the easiest way to begin walking in your purpose. Not
Wow.
Don't let it be about you. Let it be about what God wants to do through you. And that's going to put you on the road to your destiny, because destiny, if you look at successful people, they're giving to the world.
Mhm.
They are giving to the world what they think of. They have products, they have services, they have talents, and it's to the world, it's not to themselves. So that's how you find out where your purpose lies, is take your eyes off yourself and start sowing into somebody and sowing into something. If you see something that you like and say, oh, I think I could do that, study people that are doing it and see how they got there and find a way to do it better.
Well, I think you hit it on the head, because another way of saying that inside of what you're saying is that when you start doing this and do it well and give it, don't cap yourself off. If you look at life through the lens of being a destination, I just want to
Mm,
I just want to get to the improv. I just want to get to the Apollo, and that's your destination. then what you've done is that you're giving yourself a very short shelf life.
Mm.
Life is a journey,
Just right
not
now.
a destination.
And they want, too many people want instant.
Exactly. They won't. It's the thing. There's something about a journey that a journey really, as we travel a journey, we see our own lives unfold in front of us. Things unfold about our efforts. Things unfold about our experience. Unfolds about our growth. Things unfold. And the beautiful thing about things unfolding, it is a testament of our growth because we all will go through things. It's written. It's it's written in the contract. We will
Mm-hmm.
all go through things. But as I often say, it's not enough to go through if we don't grow through.
Gotta grow through it. Gotta go through it, and it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Anything that
hurt.
grows,
Oh,
anything that
sometimes
grows.
it's absolutely painful where you're grasping at breath because it knocks the wind out of you, but you gotta get up. You
Absolutely.
gotta get up. And that's where people fail. They fail because it hurts so bad to they don't want to keep moving forward. But you have to. You
Yeah.
have to get to that greater end of
Yeah.
what you're entitled to. No, this pain isn't it.
No, no,
It's
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 not.
it's just a step away. It's not it.
No.
There's joy and there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can't get to that light unless you keep walking.
You know what's a funny thing that you said, and I think it's so important, and I'm so glad that you talked about the fact of the pain that we go through with it. It is part of it. There are some people who give up easy because they're struggling. And they'll say,
Mm,
boy, I'm just struggling. I want to give up. But don't you understand? Struggling is one of the greatest signs, the fact that you haven't quit. See, struggling is an indication that I haven't given up. Struggling means the fact I have not stuck a fork in it, I'm done. Struggling is the fact that I've not fallen on the sword and say, this is it for me. So
yeah.
struggling means the fact that somehow or another, when we struggle and we gasping for air, what we know is that there's air out there. And we're
Yeah,
just
there's
trying to
air.
find it. We're just trying to locate it. So in our struggle, in our struggling that sometimes may look like we're suffering a thing, we have the assurance of knowing that even our suffering is only for but a moment. Watch this. So
Mm,
there are times we can determine the length of our own struggles. Yes, there's other time that it's already prescribed for us, but we can determine because the moment that we can come into agreement and come to ourselves and recognize and say that I am coming through this, I am going to go through this, and I'm coming through with it, it changes the atmosphere even of our struggle. Because if I can see the light ahead of me, I'm going toward the light. I'm keep pushing toward the light. I am going to go through the rain. And that's one of my favorite stories that we often tell. It's the fact of the father and the daughter who's driving through this tremendous tumultuous rainstorm that is coming, that is just raining everywhere, and they start seeing cars pull over to the side and pull over and stopping up under the underpass and all those things. But the father keeps driving. The daughter said, Dad, don't you want to pull over? Can't you see? And the dad would not pull over. And he kept driving. And she said, Dad, can't you see? He said, I'm just going to keep driving. And before she knew it, they had driven out of the storm and the rain. And she said, Dad, it's no longer raining and things like that. He said, that's what I was trying to tell you. If you keep going, you'll
if
get
you
through the
keep
storm.
going.
You'll get
Yes.
through the storm. And there are people that have to understand no matter what we've gone through, rejection, hurt, loss, breakup, pain, if we continue to go forward, we'll get through the storm. Don't camp out in the storm. Don't sit there and lament in the storm. We're going to get through the storm. Our seasons have to come. I love when I hear after you have suffered a little while.
After a little while.
Yeah, the very God of grace, he's going to establish you. He's going to perfect you. He's going to set you on your way. And that's the thing about it. Look at everything that you, I, and anyone that's been successful in any way. Everything that we have now learned to enjoy was birthed out of our suffering. It was
Mm,
birthed out of those storms. It was
yes.
birthed out of those pain. It was birthed
Yes.
out of those things there. In the moment that we was in it, we didn't enjoy it. It was there. but we endured it. We went through it, and we understood it wasn't going to be our destiny, and it wasn't going to necessarily define us, but it did refine us in the sense of the fact of now we know how strong we are. We know how
Absolutely.
resilient we could be, and we know that. And to everyone who may be listening now, you may be going through a tough time. You may have gone through divorce. You may have gone through a loss. You may have lost friendship. You may have lost a job. But I am saying to you, your attitude will determine your altitude, and it
Yes.
will every time. And so gird up. That attitude is so amazing we have to have. Today is Tenacious Tuesday. We're going to be tenacious inside of what we do. We're not going to rehearse our limitation, but we're going to rehearse our possibilities. And that talk in of itself, we feel the atmosphere. We can shift the whole atmosphere. We can shift where we're going. Yes, we can, because it takes just as much energy to talk defeat and to lament and to mourn as it does to simply speak the words that I'm coming out and I'm coming through, and this is not going to defeat me. And I get excited about that. 10 days left in this year, but not
Wow.
10 days to camp out, but 10 days to continue to prepare. Because you know what? We're not dependent on luck. We're not luck seekers. The only luck we know is when preparation meets opportunity. And when those two come together, we walk into purpose.
Woo. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we have another guest that'll be joining us, Pastor through Teresa Michelle.
Yes, Teresa should be coming on any minute now. And inside of that, and you talk about a year in testimony that she has about just through hardship. You know, most of us don't look like what we've been through, especially when we came out with the right prescription. You know, the prescription is the right thing, right? See, you can't get the wrong prescription because you may have an allergy or allergic response with the wrong medicines. But when you are able to come out with the right thing, you come out better and not bitter. You come out understanding the triumph and not necessarily the tragedy. And that's the thing that's so important. There are people that go through things just like we do, but they're bitter at the end of it. They're bitter. They're mean. They're Myra. You know, it's like they can't talk about anything without feeling like they're attacking someone. And that's what we are. That's what we have to become better.
You know what? I think we should also talk about the power of forgiveness,
Yes.
um, because, you know, people are harboring ill will towards other individuals because they feel they robbed them of something, their joy, their peace, their
Yeah.
finances. And you have to walk in a spirit of forgiveness and
Absolutely.
forgive those that hurt you. You know, I talk about this in my second book, Unveiling Secrets from the Heart,
Yes.
Forgiving Your Past to Free Your Future, where I said that my aunt told me I wasn't going to be anything. I wouldn't go no further than the branch. I was on the steps and there was a tree over there. She said, "You're not going to go any further than that branch there." And I
Wow.
remembered her saying that to me when I was in my marriage, and I I I stayed in my marriage longer than I needed to because I kept remembering her saying. Basically, she said I wasn't going to be nothing.
Exactly.
Basically, is what she said. And I'm so happy that I had a chance to talk to her a year before she passed away. And at that point, I had came out of my marriage and I was Dr. Valerie Parker-Hagan. I had written two books and stuff. And I said to her, I confronted her because, when you're a certain age, you don't talk to your elders. And I said, "Do you remember when you said this to me?" She's like, "What are you talking about?"
Wow.
I said, "You told me I wasn't going to go any further than that branch." She was like, "I don't remember that. When did I say that?" And I reminded her when she said it. And she said, which means, oh, I just said something that said it. But as a child, it had such an imprint on me
Absolutely.
emotionally that I carried it through my adult life thinking I wasn't going to be anything. And here I am in America. I didn't know anybody in my family that ever went through a divorce or anything like that. So I was like, wow, I'm going to be the first one going through a divorce. And And then we're saved, we're Christians, we're in the church. How does
Yeah.
that look? We always think about what that looks like on the outside to other people. So I stayed in that because of this person's opinion of what she dictated for my life. And a lot of times we hold things that people have said and done to us, and it prohibits us from being who we truly need to be. She had no idea she even hindered me or that it bruised my spirit in a manner that I felt differently. She was like, well, I'm so glad that you didn't listen to me because look at you. You got a great book, you're traveling around the world, and I'm so happy for you. I am so sorry if you felt that way. I said,
Wow.
no, this is what you said. And I was like, all
That's
this time I've been carrying this, and you talk about, oh, well, basically like get over it. I didn't even mean anything. It was just a matter of fact. I was just stating something at the time because you were misbehaving.
It's an interesting thing because the words that we speak has weight, it's gravity to those words. And words spoken out of season can be very dangerous, very dangerous. There are certain things that when we talk to even younger people, we put it at a different level. We don't say it in the same manner because we understand the preciousness and the vulnerability of their spirit, and we don't want to break their spirit. Now, here's the difference. It takes that younger spirit, that younger person, time and maybe years to get over that thing that may have hurt them and may have hurt them to the point that they didn't realize it. Sometimes they don't even recognize how bad they've been hurt until life really hits them. And now what do they hear echoing in their mind? The words that you've said to them that have dampened their spirit. On the other hand, the Bible talks about the woe to he who causes the offense.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that we have to be mindful of the words that we say and how we say it. As a matter of fact, our words should be seasoned with grace. It should be seasoned with that type of unmerited favor and that type of place where it allows a person a soft space to land. I'll tell you, there are many lessons I learned in life. They was hard lessons, but they wasn't delivered harshly.
Hmm.
There was hard lessons, there was hard messages, but they wasn't delivered harshly. And so we have to understand that. In either case, there's a responsibility that both people share, ultimately, and that is forgiveness. I can forgive you. It's kind of like you might not even know what you did to me. You might not even know, and maybe if you did, what you meant for evil, guess what? I refuse to allow to put me in bondage. I refuse to be, if you would, cripple. I used to talk about don't let the failures of your past cripple your future. Well, you
Right.
cannot allow what people say, their opinions, because people opinion and $2.85 can't do nothing but get you a cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. All right. And Dunkin' Donuts will gladly take your $2.85 without somebody else's opinion. And so we have to be able to forgive people, release them. And it's not always easy. So I don't want to give that connotation that it's easy, but
No,
you
it's
better
not
believe it.
easy.
It's a sign of maturity when you can get to that place and
It's
release.
a process. It's not
It is
so
a
much a
process.
maturity, it's a process because there's so many layers you have to unzip to come out and take that shift emotionally to
Absolutely.
be free to move forward. So
Absolutely.
it's a process.
Absolutely. I was wondering as our guest is on, they said they're there.
No, I haven't been able to get her. She hasn't been able to come fully through.
Okay, well, I'll know that she should be checking in because they said they're on, but maybe they're in the wrong room. I do know I said the
Yeah,
right name.
I see her trying to get on, but I don't see a visual of her. So it's just a name, that's it. And then it keeps dropping out. So
Yeah,
I can't enter into the studio until
yeah.
I see
I
a
think they have
visual.
to reboot their computer or whatever. I think that was a problem we had once before inside. So one of the things, Dr. Val, is this as well. When we start talking about that word of forgive and what that means, forgiveness doesn't mean that I have no memory of what has been done to me. Forgiveness does not mean somehow or another I excuse what has been done. When I say excuse, meaning in fact, oh, No big deal. No. Mm-mm. The offense was real.
Hmm.
The pain was real. All of that was real. But I do understand that if I'm preoccupied with that part, I'll never get to where I need to go.
Hmm.
One of the things that has been very important for me, particularly this year here in the last month or two, is to really reflect over my years and reflect over just years. And there have been people who may have been indebted to me monetarily or indebted to me in whatever way. And I made up in my mind to reach out to them to release them.
Mm.
Of course, it was unexpected to them. I release you of your debt. Huh? I release you of what you owe me. I release
You
you.
know how many people are harboring because they know they owe individuals money and they ducking and diving and weaving,
Exactly. Too much
and
energy.
you know, wow. I think you need to elaborate further on that again.
Yeah. I'm releasing them. Why am I releasing them? I'm releasing them so that they can have liberty. And not only that they can have liberty, but also that I may have complete liberty inside of the situation. When I grant them liberty, what I'm simply saying is that, listen, I release you from having to dodge, duck, hide, avoid, go the other way around, block the phone number, or whatever else. I release you from that. I release you from, in other words, I want to clear the slate so that, listen, that you don't miss God or you don't miss where you need to be because of the fact of you dodging, you can, because you're trying to get out of a debt, or you may not be able to pay the debt, but don't have the wherewithal to say so. So I want to release you so that you can have a fresh start. Now, not a fresh start to do the same thing to me,
Right.
but a fresh start in your mind. You ought
Or
to
do it to
understand
someone else because some
exactly,
people aren't that forgiving.
and so that's an important step. And I think that inside of it, I have felt so liberated in doing so. I have felt so. And so for most people, they find it hard that you would release them, especially when it's a nice chunk of change. They find it very hard that you would release because they think, hold up, are you mad with
I've
me?
had to do it. I've
Yeah,
had to do it.
exactly. And I'm saying, no, I'm
And
not
it
mad
wasn't
with you.
that I could afford it.
Exactly.
It's that I just couldn't afford not to for
Absolutely.
clarity of spirit because it
Yeah.
began to bother me. And I said, I did just what you did. I was like, just don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something liberating about that. But it also should be a message to the person who was forgiven because there's something about it. That is exactly what I think God expects of us when we look at his grace and that he's forgiven us. What will be your response? What will be your response? I don't
Mm.
want to go out there and just rack up more indebtedness. No, I want to I want to give to him everything. And look, hey, I heard you. I thank you, and I'm moving forward inside of what you've given me.
Yeah, I see Teresa keep trying to get in, but Teresa, you need to close all your windows on your computer in order for you to be able to come through.
Yeah, just need to do so. Totally reboot.
Yeah, because sometimes when you use other platforms, what's that other one?
Zoom or any of those
Zoom,
things.
when you use a Zoom and you don't close out that window, it conflicts with this program.
Yeah, because they're trying to use some of the same, if you would, mechanism there.
Yes.
But one of the things I will say is this: it is so interesting to me. This year, I see such a difference in this holiday season for me. I'm excited, yeah. Looking forward to family, children, and grandchildren, yes. But there's also this part of me that just sense this need to pray, this need to just know that, man, this has been quite a year of trying and testing. But you know what? I'm not afraid of the big bad wolf. You know, I pray, I believe that I may receive. And I believe that when we understand the fact that we don't settle for the defeat, never settle for the defeat. And when I say that, I'm not saying be a sore loser. What I'm saying is never allow that to define you.
Hmm.
Never allowed to define you. Get up from there. People's opinion should not matter that much, because what will happen is it's always easier for people to judge you in your season of trial.
Yeah.
It's always easy. You become a
Keep
very
living. Your time is
easy person.
coming.
But exactly right. The thing about it, your time is coming. And your time of coming, your time will come. And guess what? It never is the opportune time to come. It'll come in your struggle. It'll come when you've been abandoned. It'll come when when you've lost it all. It'll come inside of those situations. So it behooves us in the midst of it. How is it that I can walk through this?
Hmm.
And I can walk through it by giving it my all. So I'm getting a message. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the problem is on the phone. I guess trying to come through the phone and everything is not allowed that to happen inside of that. Sometimes it's with the phone that you have, the different systems and things like that. But the one
Yeah.
thing I do know is this: is that in the midst of all of this, tis is still the season to be jolly, and
It
I'm
is.
so jolly. I'm so happy, and I'm happy about the possibilities. I'm happy about what's getting ready to happen. I'm happy about the fact that you know what, that there's a smile where there could be a frown. I'm happy because there's a sense, there's a gleam that's in my eye, in my spirit, that speaks of hope, that speaks of triumph, that speaks of victory, that speaks of overcoming. And for many people tonight, you know what? They're about to live that chapter in their life. If they
Hmm.
push forward, well, they're going to be the overcomers. They're going to be the ones that look back over life and said, listen, I made it through that. And this is the time to do so. And the best way I think to do so is to give. Find yourself giving to someone else. Whatever you're lacking, find yourself being able to do so.
Absolutely. But it's so hard for people to give.
Yeah.
Even in church, you could be at church and the appeal will come for funds, and it's hard for people to give for that. But then when they're going through a situation in their lives, they expect everyone to come to their rescue, or someone they
Exactly.
love. If it's not for them, it's for somebody they love. I can't tell you how many times people have reached out to me and said, I have this person going through this situation. Aren't you the Soul of a Woman Foundation? Don't you serve domestic violence? Don't you do children in single parent homes? And 99% of the people that call and ask and want help or want help from someone else, they know all about me, but have never donated, never contributed. But yet and still, they know what we do, but don't want to support what we do.
Yeah. And that's the problem. People ought to consider those signs. It was Robert F. Kennedy said the best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. That means that when you're in a good position, that's the time you ought to be sending up the timber. That's the time you ought to be putting things away. That's the time you ought to be sowing and donating to from the soul of a woman or a destiny by choice. You ought to be sowing during those times there, because guess what? A rainy day will come. And if the roof has holes in it, guess what? The rain is going to come right through it. But if you've donated, if you've contributed, if you help keep these organizations going, and guess what? When it starts raining, it won't be nothing to worry about, because you've helped put the roof. You've repaired the hole through your giving. And that's what's so important about these things, is that how do I give to continue to make sure others' lives can be touched? It may not be you directly or me, but others. And I always think of others when I think about situations that people go through. Others. Because, sometimes it's a little hard to see that others are going through when things are going well for you.
Mm,
That's why we have to really, really be observant around us, because I believe
absolutely.
there's always opportunities.
Absolutely. It's so much that I'm looking forward to in 2022. I intend to be more involved in my community. We're very vocal on this platform as it relates to politics. And if you have not updated your voter registrations, please, please do so, and don't wait till 1 or 2 weeks out before an election and then try and get your voter ID together. This is stuff you can do now. And also, everybody needs to have a passport. Don't wait to the last minute. We don't know what's going on with the pandemic, or you have loved ones that you may need to get to or help, and you don't have your passport. Get your passport and your voter's registration together, and always keep cash on hand in your home. Keep cash on hand, because guess what? I've been watching TV. Alex and I be watching different programs, and we were watching 911 the other day, doing the binge watching. And they had like 3 shows where they were talking about how people were under cyber attacks, where they took over their computers. What
Right.
would happen to us if this became our reality, where we couldn't go to the ATM, we couldn't get gas, and granted, I remember those days, Dr. J,
Yeah.
when $5 used to at least give me a half a tank. That's not happening right now. But we need to make sure that we have things on hand for our own resources instead of waiting for someone to help us. We need to help ourselves while we have the opportunity to do it. So these are things that I feel that individuals need to look forward to doing for 2022. Don't sit idly by thinking, oh, this can't happen to me. Oh, we're not going to have a hurricane, because as we see, states that aren't accustomed to hurricanes,
And
their
tornado.
whole towns were tore up. So
Absolutely.
put some you know my grandmother used to say, put something out there for a rainy day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Store up for a rainy day.
Exactly. Is our guest on now? She sees us, but I guess we don't see
No,
her.
she's not.
Okay. All right. It's one of those two-way communication things there, that one side versus the other. Well, it's funny. Our foreparents didn't only tell us that, they demonstrated it.
They did it, and they
They,
didn't have a lot.
they didn't have a lot,
They
but
didn't have a
man, they
lot.
did a lot.
My parents didn't have a lot. I had no idea how poor we were, because we ate every day. And
Absolutely.
we were satisfied with what we had, because that's what we saw. And I think that we see so much. I think that this reality TV and stuff exposes us to so much of I want instead of what I need.
Wow. Well, I tell you, when I look forward to 2022, and I too want to reemphasize the fact that we have to understand the voting laws, especially in many of our states, southern states, have changed. You're right. Don't wait till the last minute. Those of you that traditionally would use mail-in ballots, keep in mind the voters' laws have changed. What you're going to find out, that you're going to be required to register over each election cycle. The other thing is about drop boxes. They will be all but limited, very limited. You will not have the access. You will not be able to take more than 3 ballots for someone or for people to the drop boxes. Once again, your ID, that's going to be crucial inside of all that you do. And most of all, show up. Show up and
Show up.
and exercise that right.
Don't sit around talking to the TV about what's wrong when you can participate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, I am looking forward to those things, and I want people to also keep in mind that when you go vote, you need to also understand some of the things that are out there, uh, amendments that are out there. Understand laws that have changed. Uh, those things are important to make yourself familiar with, because if you don't, it's easy. Whether you pull a lever, you sign in to vote for something without understanding. So, do those things that are right now engage others to vote, engage them. It's one of the only things that we have that it doesn't matter how much education that you have or have not. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin. It doesn't matter about any of those things. That is one of those rights that is afforded to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't take advantage of it, we basically are saying, I don't believe my voice counts or my voice is worth it. And I believe that everyone has to go there knowing that your voice does count. Just the very reality that is the one issue that has remained with us throughout our time as a country, ought to let you know how vitally important it is to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be an issue as it is. But you and I can make that difference by getting out there and making it happen. And as we get ready for this holiday season, don't be afraid to invest in things that's going to improve your knowledge. Better known as book. Don't be afraid to do so because we're going to need it in this time.
You know what gets me, Dr. J, is people will Google and look up their celebrity or reality star and stuff. They'll Google and follow them on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and stuff. They'll look at all of that, but things that are important, like finding out who candidates are in your community, they won't go the extra mile to look that up, but they will look up anything that's entertaining, which is a distraction. When you have to live this life that we live in these different cities and in our states, when we have to live here, don't you think reality TV and what somebody else is doing across the country don't matter? No, we need to focus on what's right here in our city, down the street, round the corner. We need to participate in our communities and by all means participate in your lives, because a lot of times when you're looking at all this stuff, you so busy caught up in other people's lives till you forget about your own life, your own reality. You have to work your way out to get to the greater version of yourself. And I'm looking so forward to seeing you and what you've accomplished in 2022. And if you want to be on Hot Topics from the Soul to talk about what you're doing and help you get to that next level, depending on what it is and what topics we cover, reach out to us at soultopics@gmail.com. That's soultopics@gmail.com. And we will be more than happy to even entertain listening to what you have to say, because this platform was created to help and serve the community, to bring knowledge, to bring power, to bring joy, to bring peace. And we wish all this for you this holiday season.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Val, I'm excited, as I said before. I'm excited about family. I'm excited about grandkids. I'm excited about legacy.
Yes.
I'm excited about what's going to happen, what's moving forward. As we are in this last quarter of 2021, we're in our last trimester. And that means that we're about to give birth.
Amen.
And when we give birth, I'm telling you, it's going to be something marvelous. And I won't refuse. I'm not going to stop pushing. I'm not going to stop pushing while we're having these contractions. We're going to push on and we're going to birth what has been placed in us to birth. And we're going to see the things around us change. We're going to command our day, our morning, our week. We're going to move forward in those things that we have to. We're going to not be selfish because we're reaching back to touch the next generation as well.
Must.
We are bringing them along. We're no longer telling them what they are not. We're no longer telling them what they don't have. We're going to keep in mind that he wrote to the young because they were strong, and to the old because they know the way. And so it's time that he and she who knows the way reach back to those that are strong so that they can mold them, that they can prepare them for the next level. I believe that there's a hunger and there's a desire to see the better than, to see the more than, to see what they haven't seen before, simply needing a little guidance to say, if you can believe, if you will believe, can you believe in me? Will you entrust me to that? And that's what we have to stir now as we look at generational thinkers. Our children are the testament of what we are and what we have done. But I'm telling you, the preparation and the impartation inside of them doesn't end, because there's a shifting that's getting ready to happen. It's going to be, come on, catch me if you can, because we're going up and we're going upward.
Yep, and you can only do it with the Lord,
Absolutely.
and make sure you keep Christ in Christmas, because truly He is
Yeah.
the reason for the season and why we're here, because it's in the Lord that we live, move, and we have our being. And we
Yeah.
pray that this holiday season that you don't forget Him, don't forget God, don't forget Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, who died and rose again, and He's coming back. Any closing remarks before we sign off for the night, Dr. J?
I just want to wish everyone out there a very happy and very Merry Christmas. And those of you that may be watching, Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa to you.
Happy Kwanzaa.
I want you to remain safe. Don't dare get up on that day and just go opening presents without giving thanks first and foremost.
Yes.
And understand, the greatest present, the greatest gift that you can open is the one that's filled with love,
Mm.
because it has no discounts. It is always at its most excellent and most highest standard. So Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We love you.
Love you. Peace.